Let me ask you something. When you picture a highly intelligent person, what comes to mind? Maybe someone who's always switched on, always busy, always doing more than everyone else in the room. Here's the thing though. That picture, it's wrong. The smartest people you'll ever meet aren't defined by what they do. They're defined by what they refuse to do. And the habits they've quietly cut out of their lives. Most people are doing those things right now. Today. Without even questioning it. In this video, we're going through 6 things highly intelligent people never do, and that many people do constantly. Stay until number 6. Because that one might explain why your thinking has felt foggy lately, even when you're trying your hardest. Here's what nobody tells you about intelligence. It's not a gift. It's not about IQ scores or fancy degrees. It's a set of quiet, consistent decisions. Choices to remove what clouds your thinking rather than pile on more of what feels productive. Because the world constantly tells you to do more. Read more. Hustle more. Optimize more. But the sharpest minds are doing the opposite. They're simplifying. They're protecting their mental clarity like it's the most valuable thing they own. And honestly, it is. Let's get into it. Here's a scene that might feel familiar. You sit down in the morning with a plan. You know exactly what needs to get done. But within 20 minutes, someone sends an urgent email. A Slack message pops up. Your phone buzzes. And suddenly, your whole day shifts, not toward what matters, but toward what feels pressing. By 5 p.m., you've been busy for 8 hours straight. And yet the most important thing on your list? Untouched. Highly intelligent people recognize this trap early. They understand the difference between what screams for attention and what actually deserves it. Psychologists call this the urgency effect, our natural tendency to prioritize tasks that feel time-sensitive, even when they carry very little real value. Sharp thinkers flip this around. They decide what matters before the noise begins. They protect the first hours of their day for deep, meaningful work, and let the urgent but trivial things wait in line. They're not being dismissive. They're being strategic. Because they know this, if everything is urgent, nothing is important. And a life spent reacting is a life spent never really thinking. This one is uncomfortable. But stay with me. We live in the most information-rich moment in human history. Podcasts during the commute. Articles over lunch. YouTube videos before bed. And after all of that, people feel sharp. Informed. Ahead of the curve. But here's the hard truth intelligent people have quietly accepted. Consuming information is not the same as thinking. Not even close. There's a well-documented cognitive phenomenon where the brain mistakes recognition for understanding. When you hear something explained clearly and smoothly, your brain lights up, it feels like learning. But recognition is passive. Understanding requires effort. It requires friction. Think about the last podcast you listened to. Could you stop right now, no notes, and explain the 3 core ideas, in your own words, to someone who knows nothing about the topic? Most people can't. And that's not a personal failure. It's just what passive consumption does to the brain. Intelligent people treat information differently. They consume less, but they engage more. After reading a single chapter, they'll close the book and ask themselves, what was actually being argued here? Where do I agree? Where do I push back? How does this connect to something I already know? That process, pulling ideas out of your mind and rebuilding them in your own language, is where real understanding lives. It's uncomfortable. It's slower. But it's the only thing that actually sticks. Picture this. You get a frustrating email from a colleague. Your blood pressure rises. You start typing a reply, fast, sharp, emotionally charged. It feels good in the moment. Justified. Maybe even necessary. But 2 days later, you'd write something completely different. Highly intelligent people understand something fundamental about the human mind. Emotions are real and valid, but they're also temporary. And the decisions made at peak emotional intensity almost never reflect what you'd choose with a clear head. Neuroscience backs this up. When the brain perceives a threat, whether it's a physical danger or just a rude comment in a meeting, the emotional center takes the wheel. Rational processing doesn't disappear entirely, but it gets significantly overridden. Smart people have developed a personal rule: never respond to a high-stakes situation while still inside the emotional wave. They pause. They wait. They sleep on it if they have to. Not because they're passive or conflict avoidant, but because they've learned that the best response is almost never the fastest one. Their patience isn't weakness. It's precision. Here's something subtle that most people never notice about themselves. Before forming an opinion, they check what other people think. They read the comment section before deciding how they feel about a video. They look at the star rating before choosing whether they enjoy a book. They wait to see which way the room leans before sharing their own view. This is social anchoring, and it quietly erodes independent thinking over time. Highly intelligent people are fiercely protective of forming their own perspective first. Before looking at reviews, before reading the reactions, before asking what everyone else thinks, they sit with the information themselves and ask, what do I actually believe here? That doesn't mean they ignore other viewpoints. They're genuinely curious about different perspectives. But there's a crucial difference between considering other opinions and replacing your own thinking with them. When you constantly outsource your opinion, you stop building the mental muscle that forms original thought. You become an echo of whatever the loudest voices around you are saying. And over time, you lose track of what you actually think, because you've never really practiced thinking it. Intelligent people protect that first, unfiltered reaction. They treat it as data worth examining. Then they update it if better evidence comes along. But it starts with them, not the crowd. This one goes against almost everything modern culture celebrates. Hustle culture has sold us a very specific story: that rest is for the weak. That the person grinding at midnight is winning. That every idle moment is a missed opportunity. And that story is costing people their best thinking. Highly intelligent people understand that the brain doesn't only process information while you're working. Some of the most important cognitive work happens after you step away. During rest, during walks, during quiet moments where you're not actively trying to solve anything. The brain consolidates information, makes unexpected connections, and surfaces insights that focused effort alone never finds. This is why some of history's most creative minds were obsessive about protecting their downtime, not despite their output, but because of it. Pushing through exhaustion doesn't make you more productive. It makes you slower, shallower, and more prone to the kind of tunnel vision thinking that misses obvious solutions. Smart people rest strategically. They're not lazy. They're not disengaged. They understand that a rested mind doesn't just feel better, it performs on an entirely different level. And they protect that edge without apology. This is the one that quietly separates extraordinary thinkers from everyone else. Most people build up a set of beliefs over time, about how the world works, about what's possible, about who they are, and then spend the rest of their lives defending those beliefs. New information gets filtered through the lens of what they already believe. Contradictory evidence gets dismissed. And the mental model never updates. Psychologists call this belief perseverance. And it affects virtually everyone, regardless of education level or intelligence. But highly intelligent people do something most people find genuinely uncomfortable. They regularly interrogate their own thinking. They ask themselves, why do I believe this? What would have to be true for me to be wrong? Am I holding this belief because it's accurate, or because it's familiar? That kind of internal questioning isn't self-doubt. It's intellectual honesty. And it's incredibly rare. Because here's what most people miss. The beliefs that feel the most certain are often the ones most worth examining. The stronger the conviction, the less likely we are to question it. And that's exactly where blind spots live. Intelligent people treat their own assumptions like a hypothesis, always subject to revision if the evidence demands it. That single habit keeps their thinking fresh, adaptable, and far more accurate than someone who stopped questioning themselves years ago. So let's bring all six together. Intelligent people don't fall for urgency dressed up as importance. They don't mistake consuming information for actually understanding it. They don't let temporary emotions drive permanent decisions. They form their own opinions before the crowd weighs in. They protect their rest without guilt. And they never stop questioning the beliefs they're most certain about. Notice what all 6 of these have in common. None of them are about adding something. Every single one is about removing something, a habit, a reaction, an assumption, that quietly works against clear thinking. That's the real pattern. Intelligence isn't about cramming more in. It's about having the discipline to cut out what doesn't belong. So here's the question worth sitting with tonight. Which one of these 6 do you recognize most in yourself? Not to feel bad about it, but as a genuine starting point. Because awareness is always where the shift begins. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If this gave you something real to think about, share it with someone who'd appreciate it. And subscribe, because we're going to keep exploring the ideas that actually change how you think, not just how you feel for 5 minutes. I'll see you in the next one.